Hello, everybody, and welcome to the post-match show here, part of the Clean Bowl podcast, with me, Sab, as we take through another huge day in the Men's T20 World Cup. Before we get into it, guys, make sure you like this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and also give us a follow on Instagram at Clean Bowl Podcast for all daily updates regarding the Men's T20 World Cup and everything to do with cricket, and all for the love of the game. So, we weren't able to get a video out yesterday, so apologies for that. So what we'll do is we'll start with a very, very post-match edition where we talk about yesterday's game, which was between England and New Zealand. So big consequences in this particular game with this Group 2 of the Super 8 stage. So England came into this game already qualified for the semi-finals. So not a huge amount riding on this game. I guess first or second, whoever wins probably would have, that depends who you're going to play from in the semi-finals in the other game. We still don't know who is qualified, but more on that. But in this game, New Zealand batted first and got 159 for 7 in their 20 overs. And I think kind of all felt that might be a little bit under par for this, especially for this New Zealand team, but also when you factor in England's batting lineup, it kind of felt that was a bit too short. I mean, they started well. 60 for none at one point. But then England, as they always do, they just keep chipping away. They never really let you get too far ahead. That's probably one good quality of this England team, especially with the bowling, is that they never let the opposition get way out of hand. They'll chip away, just at the right moment, they take wickets. And that's what England did. Just at regular intervals, they took wickets and eventually restricted New Zealand to 159 for 7. Now, England, when they batted, now England have had some batting troubles in this competition, particularly the opening pair, Phil Salt and Josh Butler. Josh Butler in particular has had a horrendous tournament. England will hope that Josh Butler will show some form in the final 2 games of the tournament if England are going to win and make it 3 trophies for them. But yeah, they really struggled. New Zealand had them kind of, we're all over them really. England were 1 for 2, 2 for 2, 50 for 3. 58 for 4 at one stage, 100 for 5 1. Tom Banton was taken out. He was the score was 117 for 6, and it looked like New Zealand had the game sewn in the bag, really. But then a partnership between Rehan Ahmed and Will Jacks. Will Jacks, what a competition he's having. Out of the nowhere, England just started going for it, and they scored so many runs in their final kind of 2-3 overs. They actually ended up winning. I think they only needed, it was right down to last few balls, 5 or 4 balls they needed, or 4 or 3 balls. And yeah, they ended up clinching a very, very narrow victory. 4 wickets in the end, but probably doesn't quite tell how close the game was. So England win. They've already qualified, but now with that win, that meant that they cemented themselves as top of that group, which means they'll probably face whoever comes second in the other group. But more on that in a little while. So that meant big complications for today's game because, well, if New Zealand had won, that would have been academic. They would have qualified alongside England. They might have actually finished top of the group. And they were so close to doing it. It really looked like Pakistan then were heading home before a ball had been bowled in this game. But England's last gasp victory meant Pakistan were still breathing in the competition. They were still alive. They still had a chance, albeit with some permutation. So they came in today's game against Sri Lanka, well, knowing that they needed a very, very big win in order to get through on run rate. The maximum points they could achieve was 3, the same as New Zealand. Again, that washout between the two sides had a big say in who's gone through. So Pakistan knew they came into this game knowing that they needed to either win by 65 runs, or if they batted second, they had to chase it down, I think, within 13.2, 13.3 overs. Within the 14th over, they needed to chase it down. So I was going, the way Pakistan, they're usually quite a conservative side when they bat. So I was thinking, I don't think this Pakistani team will be able to chase anything down in that time. I just haven't seen it. I'm not saying they're not capable. The way they play and the style that they play in gives me the impression, or gives me the feeling, that that seems unlikely for this team. But there's a chance if they bat first, they can put on a good score. And we've seen how Sri Lanka have batted, particularly in these last 2 games, that anything is possible, really, then in that case. And potentially a 65-run win is possible. So how did it get on? Well, we had a real thriller of a match. This is really exciting, really good stuff to watch. But ultimately, Ultimately, Pakistan did win, but they didn't win by anywhere nearly enough. They needed 65. They only won by 5 runs. What a game this was. A lot to unpack. It was incredible watching, really. Pakistan were put into bat by Sri Lanka. Interesting choice considering how bad Sri Lanka have been chasing totals in the last 2 games. That's effectively kicked them out of this World Cup. Pakistan batted first. And once again, it was that man, Farhan. He has now broken the record for the most runs in a single T20 World Cup. He scored another century, back-to-back centuries now for him. So he scored 100 off 60 balls and really powered Pakistan to 212 for 8. Now, on paper, you'd look at it and think, wow, that's a really good score. And it is a good score. It's a very impressive score. To getting over 220 overs is always impressive. But that doesn't tell the full story, because I think, and even Pakistani fans would agree with me, Pakistan probably were a little bit short there. I think in the 14th or 15th over, Pakistan were 175 without loss. They were looking at 230, 240, maybe had to push 250. And I remember they needed to win by 65 runs because they were batting first. So they lost a clump of wickets towards the end. And I know it's hard when you got two guys batting. You know, Farhan was batting with Fakhar Zaman, and they put on that brilliant opening partnership. When one of them went, it was really difficult for the new guys to come in and just immediately carry on with that momentum. And Sri Lanka capitalized on that, and they took, a plethora of wickets. Pakistan just, I guess, look, it's not like they had a bad end to the innings, but you just feel that they were, after Farhan was out, it felt that might have restricted them by 10, 20 runs. They probably could have got a lot more had he stayed in a little bit longer. Now, 212 is still a great score, but you just felt that maybe there were 20 runs still there for them to get. But they had a very good innings. Like, let's just have a quick look at the score. Farhan, as we said, 100 from 60 balls. Pakistan 84 off 42 balls. And then just listen to these scores from the rest of the Pakistani batsmen. Khawaja Nafi 2, Shadab Khan 7, Mohammad Nawaz 0, Salman Aga 0, Usman Khan 8, Shaheen Shah Afridi 4, Naseem Shah 1. So the fall of the wickets from being 175 without loss, they were then just pegged back regularly after that. 179 for 2, 198 for 3, 199 for 4, 199 for 5, 203 for 6, 207 for 7, 210 for 8. So you can see they just stalled a little bit towards the end of the innings. Now, that had big implications, because that meant that Sri Lanka, when they came out to bat, they knew, well, obviously they were trying to win, but the overall implications of the game, Sri Lanka needed to get 147 or more. And if they did reach that target of 147 or more, that meant Pakistan would be out. So even if they got to 148 all out, Pakistan would be going home early, because that's how the run rate situation calculated itself. So, yeah, really, really thrilling end to this game, and the momentum shifted between the two sides throughout this game. But ultimately, Pakistan won, but they didn't do enough. And Sri Lanka, to their credit, put in a really good effort with the bat. They only lost by 5 runs, and to be honest, they looked like they were going to win. They, kind of didn't start that well. They were 8 for 1, and then they were 33 for 2, 75 for 3. So they were behind the run rate quite a lot, and it just seemed like they were ever going to be in a chance of winning in this game. But the longer it went on, the closer it got to the end, they actually started to hit, and they really started, and they were backed with a brilliant performance. I mean, Pavan Rathnake, he got 58 of 37. He's kind of started the counter-attack. The star of the show, though, was the captain, Dasun Shanaka, with 76 not out of 31 balls. He really powered Sri Lanka in the final stages of this game. And they needed, I think, 30-something off the last over, or maybe just under 28 or something off the last over. And he absolutely went to town. 3 sixes in a row. I think boundary off the first ball, then 3 sixes off in a row. And suddenly they needed 6 off 2. And then I thought, oh my God, they're going to win this game. And it would have been a remarkable run chase. But then there was a late twist in the tail. Shaheen Shah Afridi bowled a very wide, but well, it was a wide. But for some reason, Shanaka went for it and really reached across and kind of did make contact with the ball. I was hoping it was going to be a wide, but it wasn't given as a wide, so they needed a six off the last ball. And again, a marginal wide delivery, but a swipe, and it was a dot ball in the end. So a bit anticlimactic, but having such a huge deficit in that final over, Shanaka brought Sri Lanka to the brink of an incredible victory, only for two dot balls that I think he was thinking both were going to be wide. And the fifth ball of the over looked like it was wide. Had he probably left it, or that would have been given a wide, but because he was able to reach it, it was given as a legal delivery. And then with the follow up delivery, yeah, he just wasn't able to make contact. So yeah, as I said, slightly anticlimactic. I thought at that point, Sri Lanka, they're going to win this. But yeah, incredible end to the game. Sri Lanka, you got to say fair play to them for the effort that they put in, and the crowd. Their fans were electric. By the way, the atmosphere in the stadium was amazing, particularly in the last kind of half an hour, 45 minutes of that run chase, where Sri Lanka started to climb back into the game and actually came close, as I said, to an incredible win. The crowd were amazing, and it just was really nice to see the fact that Sri Lanka actually had nothing really riding on the game. They had no skin in the game. They were already out of the competition, and where they finished didn't really matter. Whether they finished fourth or third just would make no difference. So it was just nice to see. And obviously, Sri Lanka's very passionate about their cricket. I think Kumar Sangakkara said that even if the team is unhappy, the fans are unhappy with the team, and they were after the last game. Fans were very, very unhappy about the way which they folded against New Zealand and against England, but really against New Zealand, there was a lot of heat on the team. But they still turn up in their numbers, and Kumar Sangha said, yeah, even if the team is not doing well, their biggest support and their biggest energy boost and the biggest thing they have is their fans, because they will still come and show their love for the team, regardless if they're not happy with the performances. So that was just really nice to see. For Pakistan, well, their journey in this particular World Cup has now also come to an end. Pakistan have a long history of coming into games that they need some kind of run rate situation to help them in order to stay in the competitions. They are forever relying on other teams to keep them in, and then entering a match with a crazy run rate situation to try and do it. And on this occasion, look, to be honest with you, I think they only have themselves to blame for not necessarily being in this situation. It's not their fault. Obviously, their game against New Zealand was called off, but they didn't do enough against England, first and foremost. But then even in this game, you're coming in and you know what you need to do. You know you need to win by 65 runs. They lost so much momentum in that last 3-4 overs, where I think if they had a 240, even a 250, Sri Lanka, the score that Sri Lanka would have needed to get would have been a lot higher. It could have been a 170, a 180. It just felt like Pakistan's heads, just everything dropped for them. Look, even if Sri Lanka had got to 130 and they still need another 40, 50 runs, Pakistan were well in the game at that point. They would have believed that they could have bowled Sri Lanka or restricted them to under that target, whatever it is. But because Sri Lanka got close to that 147, once they were 10 runs away, Pakistan knew, the game's up. We're not going to be able to qualify. We're not going to be able to go through to semi. So, they nearly lost the actual game, which would have been crazy for them to essentially lose twice in the same game. They nearly did that. But, they kept on for a win. But again, this win doesn't mean anything. It just means they go home now. So, yeah, they only have themselves to blame for putting themselves in this position. And I feel that they could have actually got the job done. They could have won by 65 runs, or they could have restricted Sri Lanka to something close to that would have allowed them to qualify. But they didn't do enough. Farhan did so much good work with his century, but nobody else could carry on that momentum. Only Fakhar Zaman, who also got 84. Apart from that, nobody scored a 20 or 30 or put any kind of pressure back on the Sri Lanka and carried that momentum enough for them to get a score that was, out of reach. 230, 240, 250, that would have, probably been enough. We'll never know. But I just felt that Pakistan have only themselves to blame with what they did in the final 5 overs of this game. That's what's cost them in the end. Overall, look, they just haven't quite been good enough. Obviously, that's why they haven't qualified. I don't think they were that great against England, apart from that guy again, Farhan. Apart from him, no one has been able to back him up. And that's been their downfall. Their batting has let them down in this competition. They were dreadful with the bat against India. And then they were here. Look, the washout against New Zealand was always going to have a bit of a say. But when it mattered, with the bat, that's where this competition has ended. That's why it's ended. When it mattered with the bat, Pakistan just not delivered. They have a good bowling attack. They're full of good bowlers. The spin attack is good. They just, when it matters, Pakistan don't quite, deliver when it matters, and that is ultimately where they're at in world cricket. Those moments are going against them, and they're not capitalising on moments either. When they're in games, they're not doing enough to stay in the game, or they're not. If the opposition hands them an initiative, they don't take it. And then there's just usual other mistakes and things like that. So Pakistan, Sri Lanka are out of the competition. New Zealand, they would have been wary and nervous. Anyone who stayed up to watch it in New Zealand, but they are through to a semi-final. Again, that's what New Zealand do. They slip under the radar, but they're not one of the more glamorous teams, if you like. And that's not a disrespect to New Zealand. I don't mean that as a disrespect to New Zealand, but they're a little bit understated compared to the other teams. Nobody mentions them that much. Nobody talks about them that much, but they always do this. They always make it to a semi-final. So credit to them, New Zealand. Honestly, it's actually an incredible achievement when you think of a country so small, where they don't have the same resources or populace as other countries. For them to still routinely perform in World Cups across different sports, by the way, I'm not just talking about cricket. But obviously, this is a cricket podcast, but rugby, for example, we all know about the history of the All Blacks. But even in cricket, throughout all the World Cups, New Zealand are always there or thereabouts in the quarters or semi-finals. They always make it to the last stages of competition. Now, are we ever going to see New Zealand win? They have come close in the last few years, but again, they haven't quite got over the line in competitions as yet. So that would be, hopefully we get to see that. Obviously I don't hope that's going to be this year, but New Zealand are through to a semi-final along with England. And England, well, they were ropey in the group stages, and I feel like they haven't been great throughout the entire tournament, but they're peaking at the right time. They're doing enough, and certain players are putting in great performances. Will Jacks having the tournament of his lifetime right now. I think they said that was his 4th Player of the Match award of this competition. So he's having a brilliant tournament, and it's covering for players who aren't doing that well. Phil Salt is not having the best tournament. Josh Butler, his form has fallen off a cliff. So you wonder maybe what his future will be after this competition ends, but that's a completely different conversation. But there are other guys performing who are bailing England out at times, or they're taking wickets at the right time. Rehan Ahmed came in today. Baz McCullum told him to play like Sehwag, bat like Sehwag. He did, with an incredible little cameo at the end. So again, they have guys who are doing right things at the right time for England, and they're peaking at the right time, and they're into the semi-finals. They've made more semi-finals of T20 World Cup than any other country. So fair play to England. They look strong. We know now, obviously, South Africa from the other group are in it. God, they're the only undefeated team in the competition. New Zealand are joining them. Who will take the final semi-final spot? It will come down to one game, a shootout game between India and the West Indies tomorrow. No live watch long, I don't think, for us tomorrow. That could change, but no live watch long as it stands. But we will obviously have a post-match show about the game tomorrow, and then a big wider episode as we preview the semi-finals. But let's see who's in it. So guys, share your thoughts about how everything's gone. How's the Super 8 stage has gone for you? Pakistani fans, I want to hear from you. Where did it all go wrong for you guys today? Obviously a win, but did you believe, could this have been done? I think personally, had you scored more runs when you batted like you should have, you probably could have actually qualified for the semi-finals. Do you agree with me? Am I talking nonsense? Please tell me about this. And please, share your thoughts about Farhan performance. Even if both Pakistan have lost today, have been eliminated today, credit needs to go for good performances. Farhan has scored more runs in this T20 World Cup than anyone else previously. He's broken Virat Kohli's record from 2014. So congratulations to him. And it's a shame for someone who's played so well, 2 centuries in a row, that he won't be able to contribute with the bat again, which is a real shame for Pakistan. Sri Lanka, we know you guys we must be proud of your team tonight, but again, effectively dead rubber for this team. How are we feeling about this whole tournament? Co-hosts qualified for the Super 8s after beating Australia, but then really the form has fallen off a cliff in the Super 8 stage with some of these batting performances. So, what is next for Sri Lanka? And who do we think is going to win in the semi-final between India and the West Indies tomorrow? That's a huge game at Eden Gardens tomorrow. Remember, the last time the competition was held in India was 10 years ago in 2016. West Indies eliminated India in the semi-finals, and they went on to win. Tomorrow, they're playing each other for a place in the semi-finals. So, a huge match in prospect, and then we'll know who our semi-finalists are. So, Pakistan, they won today, but ultimately they lost because they've been dumped out of the tournament. And Sri Lanka, well, they were already out anyway, which means New Zealand joined England in the semi-finals. This has been the post-match show with me, Sab, for the Clean Ball podcast. We'll see you next time.